Well, that was a reveal. That was quite the reveal. So apparently that's why Choso likes Yuji so freaking much. Apparently Yuji is a brain baby. He's actually born from the brain thing that's inside of Geto right now. Okay. I'm assuming that's what it's implying there because, you know, the grandfather was saying that the mother was dead and then it cuts over and she's literally standing there going, what are you talking about? And she's got the scars on her head. Okay, I guess, and that's why Yuji is so strong as well. I mean, they kind of imply that he's, you know, a lot more stronger than most people. So, interesting little reveal there. I will say, though, like, of everything in these first 2 episodes of the Culling game so far, the thing that I love so much is the fact that it's, like, made me like Choso so freaking much. Like, I think he's turning out to... Like, I've always liked Gojo because he's, like, so OP and he's so freaking hot and all that kind of stuff, and he just flexes his power. But, like, Choso is just, like... just a cool guy. He just wants to be a big brother. Like when Yuji finally acknowledged him, he's like, Yuji! And he just walks away. I'm like, I feel so bad for Choso. Choso's turning into be like the MVP right now. I just absolutely love his character. But yes, I watched the first 2 episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen, the Culling game. Really enjoying it so far. I did promise a lot of people that I was going to go back and rewatch specifically Season 2 because I did really enjoy Season 1. But Season 2, I kind of fell off of the series and I was kind of stopped liking it, and I kind of felt like maybe I need to rewatch it, see if, you know, it kind of resparks in me. I didn't get a chance to do that, but I did watch a lot of recaps, so I got a sense about what actually happened and reminding myself a lot about stuff that I've forgotten. So hopefully I don't get anything wrong. So if I say like, holy crap, this was shown, and then somebody's like, dude, that was already revealed back here, that's why. That's why a lot of this stuff is probably going to sound weird. So people in the comments, be nice. You can correct me, but please be nice. But yes, these first 2 episodes, the first episode seemingly was mostly about Naoya, which apparently is the next head of the Zen'in clan. Well, was question mark? I don't know if he's still alive. I'm assuming that Yuta helped him out there. He said that I was going to reverse the thing. I'm assuming he would do that because he did report that Yuji's, you know, dead. He's probably got to leave in order to report that. So I'm going to assume that Naoya's still alive. So this is the next head of the clan. For now, until presumably, potentially, Megumi could take over. It seems to imply the fact that, yes, at that point they announced that the head was dead. You know, they read off the, you know, will, and Naoya is going to be the next head of the clan, unless Gojo dies or loses his mental faculties. And yeah, right now he's currently in prison. And I would assume that there's a potential that Naoya knows that, and thus that's why, upon hearing that, he immediately wants to go take out Megumi. So he rushes over there. I like the initial, like, showing up of him when Choso and Yuji are talking, and then suddenly out of nowhere, it's just, like, blink. It was, like, one of those moments where I'm like, okay, he just blinked in the frame, didn't he? Which, I guess, again, technically makes sense because, as we've seen with his father, the last head of the family, he had that same technique that Naoya uses. He has that 24 frames per second thing, which at this point, I still don't understand what it's talking about there. It's like it fabricates like ahead of time in 24 frames and allows them to move really fast, which I guess you're skipping frames there at that point because how many frames are in a reality? There's an oddity there, like how many frames can you really use there? But either way, he's like incredibly fast. He's really, really fast. But yeah, he just like appears and I'm like, wait, did he come in the frame or he just like zoom? Yeah, no, he just zapped in the frame, which was actually kind of cool. But yeah, he shows up and he got like the massive like main character syndrome. I don't like Naoya, but at the same time, I kind of like him just because he's so full of himself. Like this guy thinks everything else is below him. He hates his brothers. He thinks that everything is destined for him. As he's fighting Choso, he's just fixing his hair, you know, fighting everything, just nothing, everything below him is so freaking great. But it, yeah, technically does sort of pair up well with Choso in the end. The fact that the two of them end up fighting in the end because Yuta comes here to take out Yuji, so they make a little agreement there. Yes, it makes sense the two of them fight because it turns out that Naoya hates his brothers, thinks they're below him, and then over here, Choso absolutely adores his brothers. Everything is about his brothers. And I think it's a cool little kind of reveal there again that kind of makes me like Choso even more, and the idea that he's sitting there going, no, you hate your brothers? Everything about you is about your brothers. Doesn't, of course, Naoya doesn't like that. That what you just said there is disgusting, but Choso is like, elder brother has to guide their younger brothers. Every mistake they make is something that the younger brother chooses not to do because they see an example there. And if you do something successful, they want to follow in those footsteps. It makes a lot of sense there, but their little fight was pretty cool. Just Naoya being incredibly fast and Choso in the end just pretty much flooding the entire area and then doing that Nova ability that apparently he's finally perfected. I will say, like, the only part of these 2 episodes that was probably a little off for me, like, if you want to drag something bad out of it, was probably the flood. It just gets in too much in that, like, smearing animation that I don't particularly like. But other than that, it was a really cool fight. I really do, again, have grown to really like Choso's character, so him taking down the guy that's absolutely full of himself is pretty cool. I think in the end, it's more he wins because he gets his blood inside of Naoya. And because he's inhuman or whatever, it seems to poison him. His body rejects it and ultimately, in the end, loses. But yes, the more important part of this episode is more probably Yuji. And the fact that we're following up the previous episodes, the previous arc, which is Yuji having his body being used by Sukuna, and Sukuna essentially killing a lot of people. And so now he has his hands are bloodstained, and it seems to be getting to him at this point. Very much so down, but it seems like he's still not completely out. He still wants to, take down the cursed spirits and all that kind of stuff. So he's still moving, but he definitely is feeling responsible for a lot of those actions. And yes, having Yuta show up to exact the execution that was ordered upon him. Yuta making pretty dang quick work of Yuji. I mean, he was technically still holding up to Yuta, but it wasn't until, yes, Rika finally shows up that's finally able to pin down Yuji and allow Yuta to be, deal that killing blow. I think in the end, I wasn't really expecting Yuta to actually be there to kill Yuji. There was a side of me that believed that he was there to at least put on a show. I think the point in which he tells Rika that they're just playing, my assumption at that point was that, no, he's not there to kill him. If he wanted to, he could just had Rika smash him. Yeah, go ahead and smash him. Good job, Rika. Smash him. We're here to kill him. Go ahead and smash him. No, he says, no, we're playing before he goes up there and apologizes and stabs. It made sense that he wasn't there to kill him. Plus, yes, Yuji has to live because Yuji is the main character. He can't die. I also figured that Yuta would want to work alongside Yuji in the end because the both of them are being protected by Gojo. And with Gojo being gone, the two of them are up, for execution. Gojo was keeping both of them from being executed. With him gone now, that protection's gone. So yes, while they're asking Yuta to take down Yuji now, he's next up. I would assume he's going to be next up. Yes, he can be following orders and that could be all good and everything, but there's still a fear there because of, I think, especially around Rika. I have to agree with the perspective of Choso in this entire first episode, though, is that it seems like Yuji he's leveled up quite a bit. Like, it does seem like he's got much more control over his ability. He seems more confident. I guess that's really the thing. It seems like he's more confident. He's more flexible in his style. I think the way that Choso said was that he had power before, but now he was gaining, like, technique or something like that. He's added subtlety to it. But yes, after Yuji has been taken out, we cut to an interesting little shot with him looking up at what I'm assuming is his father, his grandfather. His grandfather's arguing with him, saying that you can live however you want, but stay away from that woman. I know you wanted a child, and you never were able to with Kaori, but Kaori died. And then it cuts over, and this woman says, "What are you talking about?" Again, presuming here that whatever's inside of Geto, this brain thing that was once in Kamo, is now inside of his mom and birthed Yuji. Which, again, I'm assuming that's probably why Yuji has the strength that he does. And it could technically answer why Sukuna has never been able to fully take over Yuji. Yuji's always had the ability to kind of fight him off. And you can always kind of give that to, like, main character syndrome. He's just super cool and he's the main character and he always fights back because of spirit. But this is sort of, in a way, could be answering exactly why he was never able to. There might be something else, unique about Yuji that allows him to kind of fight back with that stuff. But yeah, that was a interesting little reveal there. And again, kind of adds to Choso's whole thing because, of course, Noritoshi Kamo, as it was mentioned at the very end of the last season, is very much so tied in with Choso. And so thus, that's why Choso believes that Yuji is his brother and thus actually ties them pretty well, at least bloodline-wise. And again, kind of makes it where I think Choso being this brotherly figure is really cool. But anyways, Yuji wakes up. I think the more interesting thing in Yuji and Yuta's kind of conversation here is Yuta kind of relating to Yuji and his struggles with what they're dealing with their power. I do like at some point he mentioned the fact that I once shouldered a greater power that I couldn't bear. I thought it was forced upon me, but it turned out it was something that I brought upon myself. And yes, that's technically with Yuta's story is the fact that he believed that he was cursed by Rika, but in fact, it was because he didn't want her to die when she died that he cursed her to stay with him, and thus he brought that upon himself. Thankfully, he got that release at the end of the movie, but this is sort of like Yuta's, fault that he caused this. Whereas he's pointing out to Yuji, you're not the same situation as me. You can argue that, yes, technically Yuji did eat the finger. He did technically eat the finger, but he's not in control of that situation. But then Megumi shows up. Yuji just the entire time doesn't want to look in his face. It just doesn't seem like Yuji wants to look at his face at all. Just feeling very guilty about everything that's happened. And I think a lot of what's weighing down on Yuji right here is I think Megumi was all about the idea of, not wanting something to be let live because it'll cause the death of other people. And that's a lot to do with, Yuji and having control of Sukuna, is that in allowing him to live, Sukuna is going to cause more death. And I think that's sort of what is hitting Yuji a lot. I think that's probably why a lot of the internal dialogue is, no, don't say that. You're the one that's going to be hurting the most by saying that. Please stop saying that. But yeah, he mentioned the fact that Noritoshi Kamo is doing the whole Culling game and that his sister's involved with it, and thus he needs his help in order to stop the whole thing, and they have to figure out how to get Gojo out. So they meet up with Yuki and Maki, decide they need to go to Tengen in order to get some answers. Apparently, Choso has an idea about how to get there because he can sense his brothers. He can sense his brothers that are locked up inside the vault. They have a brief mention of the blood that's on the floor that was from 12 years ago, which I would assume that'd be the point in which, the whole thing with Toji and Geto and Gojo happened before getting inside there and feeling that it rejected them. Now, here's the thing here. Specifically, Yuki says that even though they're in there, it seems that Tengen is rejecting them. But then she says, maybe it's just me. I don't know if we've ever really got too much into Yuki yet. I think that she's really kind of just popped up for the most part with Geto and Gojo's story. I don't know if they put too much into her backstory or why she might be implying that Tengen doesn't want to see her, or at least a reveal in front of her. Though it could just be the idea that everybody in that room seems important in some way, and potentially she's not that important. I don't know. I think there's going to be something about her specifically that she thinks Tengen doesn't want to be in presence of, which I'll be curious if eventually they get into that. Because yes, eventually, I'm assuming it's Tengen, eventually this being does show up, and what it says when it first shows up is interesting. It says, "Are you leaving? Hello, child of Zen'in," which I would assume that would be, obviously Maki, because Maki is a Zen'in, but that could be Megumi as well, because Megumi is, the son of Toji. Descendant of Michizane, which that would be Yuta, because Gojo mentioned that he and Yuta were descendants of Michizane. The Cursed Womb Death Painting, which of course is Choso, and the Vessel of Sukuna, which is Yuji. So that's everybody in that room except for Yuki. Yuki could be one of those things, and I'm just not aware of it. But they technically called out everybody but Yuki. So again, very interesting, very interesting. And yes, does imply this thing either has a lot of informants or is very much in tune about everything that's happening around them, which again technically makes sense because they're doing a lot for the barriers and whatnot. But a very interesting way to end the conversation. I'll be curious to see what comes after this. Obviously, the big question mark they had for Tengen is how to release Gojo from this, prison. They potentially could be asking them about other things. I think the preview for the next episode implies they're going to be asking about specifically why this Noritoshi Kamo, or this brain thing that was once in that, is doing the Culling games. My assumption to begin with was a lot to do with what they were implying their goal was, which is to remove all people that are not sorcerers, anybody that cannot utilize these abilities, get rid of everybody that is normal, essentially. Evolve mankind, in a sense. We are the superior race. We are the superior beings. We need to get rid of everything that's not. Because that's what Geto was struggling about. We're constantly sacrificing ourselves in order to save these normal people. Let's just get rid of the normal people. That way we don't have to keep sacrificing ourselves. Everybody can handle this stuff. Every person that has these abilities are descendants from other people that have these abilities. So let's just get rid of the bloodlines that don't have the abilities. Anyways, I think that's everything. I really, really enjoy these first two episodes. Looking forward to more. I'm not sure if I'll cover it on a weekly basis, but it was a really solid start. If I have more to talk about with the coming episodes, I'll make more videos. But for now, that's my thoughts on it. Very curious to see where it goes from here. But hope you guys enjoyed my video. As always, if you did, hit the like button down below. If you like this content, you want to support the channel more, become a member of the channel. Until next time, I'll take care.